And so I just, I've always hated that, the way that American culture tends to take that, what is dominant, and then try to drive these wedges, between people who should have some level of friendship and solidarity between them. And I think that's the reason I bring that up is that I think that's what your book really points towards, is learning how to see one another and to really hear one another's stories so that we can develop solidarity.
Yeah, exactly. And, when you talk about your childhood, I had those experiences of being called, Jap or China Ching Chong and the eye pulling. It was an awful experience, and I do share some of that in my book. And it's something that I carry with me, as an adult and as a mother too, because it still happens in the playground. And little kids think it's not painful, but it really is, because there's nothing I can do about my eyes or the color of my skin. You are born, and we are born all so differently and all beautifully, and we should be able to embrace it. And, in the last few chapters of the book, I do talk about my co-written book, Intersectional Theology with Susan Shaw. And I think intersectionality is important because we are such diverse people. So I am you are a white, educated woman, able. I am a Asian American, educated woman. So, we have points of intersection and then all these differences. So we experience oppression in different ways. And Diana, you may experience it in a different way, and I do. And a Black woman may, a queer woman may too. So there are all these different forms of how we experience oppression. And we should never go into this Olympics of oppression. Someone's experiencing more. We should be all in solidarity to help one another for the different forms of experiences of oppression. So my experience as an Asian American woman experiencing oppression from the white community, and then also within my own Asian American community, I had, I'm ordained PCUSA. I had such a painful experience of getting ordained. And that experience came out of my own Asian American kind of patriarchal church community. It was so painful. And it happened 10 years ago. I realized I was ordained November 13, 2011. And it's still painful for me today. So there are all these different ways that oppression happens, that discrimination happens, and then people of color experience racism. So we need to hear each other's stories. We need to lift each other up. And I as a theologian, some people say, biblical scholars, at least you use Bible. Historians, you have all these church historical documents you use, and then some friends will say, you theologians have nothing, you just make everything up. But, and maybe it is true for some theologians, but I use a lot of scripture in my theology. And when I go to this scripture, and, I'm sure many of your listeners are far connected to scripture than I am. But when we look at scripture and we look at, what Jesus did too, Jesus lifted the woman up. The Samaritan woman at the well, he lifted her up. The woman who came to anoint his feet, we will remember in memory of her, of what she has done, lifting these marginalized voices and women. To the lepers, he heals the lepers, the most kind of marginalized group in that society. So we look at what Jesus did, and we need to do likewise. Otherwise, we're going to end up hating one another. We're going to end up destroying churches. There is so much hate within the Christian community. And I don't know where that's coming from, or maybe the hate is louder than love, and you see so much hate on social media, especially during Trump administration. But I think we really need to focus on the love that Jesus had been sharing and teaches us. And so that's what I hope with this book, Invisible, that people will first understand our history, our story, the different levels of oppression that we experience, and then work towards welcoming everybody, a theology of visibility, where we will be able to lift one another up. And I think today we live in a world, of not just multiracial but multi-religious society. So we need to be able to listen and engage in dialogue with our Muslim brothers and sisters, with our Buddhist brothers and sisters, with people of all faith and tradition. So that's why I really, I started off being so welcoming of Christology, and then I'm moving into pneumatology, the study of the spirit, because the spirit is experienced or understood in all these different religions. And so if we can just be less afraid of each other and be open and be more loving and understanding that different religions also may be talking about the same thing, then I think we would have a more peaceful world, a peaceful society, a peaceful nation, and a community. And that's my hope with this book.